Thank you, Chairman Lynch. I appreciate the opportunity to be waived on to the task force today to participate in this hearing, especially given the issue. Working families should not have to wait days at a time just to access their own hard-earned money. As I said to Chairman Powell a few months ago, when you were living paycheck to paycheck and rent is due the first of the month, there can be no room for error. After the Federal Reserve's August announcement, this is no longer a question of if, but when, and how this faster payment system will develop. Unfortunately, the longer it takes to build this system, the more families and small businesses will suffer. That is why I was proud to introduce the Payments Modernization Act in partnership with Representative Chuy Garcia and Senators Warren and Van Hollen. This is the only legislation that holds the Fed accountable for developing a faster payment system that prioritizes consumer protection, fraud prevention, and equal access in a more reasonable time frame. My bill requires the Fed build this system in 3 years, allowing the U.S. to remain competitive and to not fall further behind in the global payment space. There is still more work necessary to ensure a smooth payments modernization process. That is why my bill requires a GAO study on the U.S. payment system and what regulatory and legislative changes are necessary in order to promote consumer protection, reduce fraud, and to promote stronger cybersecurity practices. Now, there are some who believe that this pressing need can somehow be met by the private sector alone. However, the existence of both ACH and the clearinghouse's private settlement service suggests otherwise. I want to ask each of you a simple yes or no question. Can the clearinghouse alone reach all of the nation's almost 11,000 financial institutions? We can just start with President George and go all the way down the line.
The board's analysis concluded that they'd have significant challenges in doing so.
Yes or no?
No.
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 Not in the time frame you're indicating, no.
So it's clear that the current system is insufficient. Small and local banks and small businesses alike do stand to benefit from this proposal. Mr. Steen, how does your bank plan to use real-time payments? And how will this benefit your customers, particularly small businesses and low-income people?
We are currently working with some partners, otherwise known as fintechs, that targeting underbanked, underserved customers. We structured a virtual branch. We're creating bank accounts for these folks. There's a debit card associated with it. And we believe that we can bring these folks into the system. And we are working with a group targeting Latino churches and a Latino Church Association. But even in our core customer base, which is a rural community, and we know most of our customers, virtually all of our customers, we know they have needs, and many of them live paycheck to paycheck. And we've improved things. You know, with online banking, they can see their account much more readily. We know from our own experience that overdraft volume is going down significantly year over year. We think that's a good thing. We're not trying to make money on overdraft fees. Our overdraft fees are low. We don't charge relatively low. We don't charge on continual fees. We cap overdraft fees. So we do everything we can because we know how much of an impact that makes.
Thank you, Mr. Steen. And Mr. Williams, how will the added transparency and quicker access to funds protect working people from otherwise predatory products, such as payday loans or punitive measures like overdraft fees?
I think when there's a need for capital and it's a gap between what a family or someone needs today versus next week, there also needs to be safe resources for that capital. But I think that's one part of it. I think the other part of it is that if there is transparency and when funds will be readily available, families and this group of Americans will have a better chance at planning properly. What's causing the biggest concern is the emergency. It's the things that were unplanned.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Chair, I ask for unanimous consent to submit to the record a letter of support for our legislation from the Main Street Alliance, a leading voice for small businesses. And I just want to thank Representatives Axney, Tlaib, and Chairman Meeks for their support of this effort, and I urge the remainder of my colleagues to do the same.